Basement level vibes with another one, straight up blackness. Aye, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, I do it for the love, him not do it for no money. Straight up, him attack, educating everybody. Big up my friends and big up my family. Turn on the radio, catch the vibes, it's integrity. Straight up, Benskop stands for unity. One people, one nation, one destiny. Free up the truth in the air, even the blind can see. The deaf can hear, the dumb can talk, the cripple can walk. Boom. Who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, we have to gather wrong, grab a seat and sit down, pay attention. Education, liberation, we have to stand strong. Benskop upon the radio, lively up the program. Everybody call somebody and let them turn and tune and on the radio and catch the boom song. We boom it up already, we have to boom it up again. Expose and reveal him. Who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit.
Hello, this is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm, located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
Good evening. My name is Mark Bench. 6 minutes after 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We are going to rock and roll this evening. I'm not sure why my operator Lemon has this watch list on. Watch list is during the course of the morning, but this is straight up. But those who are on the U.S. watch list, they know who they are. They know who they are. You want us to call them out? Watch they roll out of their corners or underneath whatever branch or wherever they are. Watch them come out. The other guy, what's his name? Duncan rings a bell. But this is how we get the snakes, the political snakes, out of their holes so that they can watch us. We're calling the political snakes, whether they're at Freedom House, whether they're at Office of the President. Come on, guys, follow, let's and share it. Share it. Let's call the political snakes out. They got a lot of them. They're trying to justify their actions, of course, nefarious actions. They don't mean well, but they're trying to justify things out of a desperate, lonely, dark tunnel. That's where they are. So let's call them out. Come on. They're going to drop out from wherever they are, drop out from underneath an umbrella, wherever they are. Come on, join me. All right, hey guys, you guys hit, as they say in Guyana, right? And for those who are not Guyanese, as the saying go in Guyana, y'all like stupidness, huh? Y'all love stupidness, huh? Good evening to all of you guys. My name is Mark Benchap, and welcome to Straight Up. We're gonna rock and roll this evening. We have lots of things to talk about, serious issues, mind you. And occasionally we go with the kind of like gutter jab, so to speak, but we keep it strictly professional because we have lots of things to talk about, exposing the corrupt regime, the racist regime. This is not about let us all live together. No, it's not the time for living together. You can't just want to hug up the oppressors just like that, and say, let us all just get along. You can't just say, let us all get along when you are under pressure and you put your hands up and you surrender to the political oppressors. It doesn't happen like that, guys. It just doesn't. Only a political nincompoop would think like that. A selfish individual who is just about themselves. Oh, can we just all get along? Anyways, in studio with us, Lincoln Lewis. And then we will also have, I might as well just call her my co-host, Shalon Washington, attorney at law, is going to join us as well. But for now, you can share the link. Hey, what's going on with Norman Brown? Good evening to you, Norman. Look, Norman, I tell you this. I've been in the trenches way longer than some of the hypocrites, some of those who are desperate for attention and all manner of things. We know who they are, right? Branford Burke? Good evening to Branford Burke. We know who they are, but let me say this to you, Norman Brown, right? When the political hypocrites and the sub drinkers and these guys, they want to justify their actions. The actions are pretty fresh. And then they go 25, 30 years back and say, look, they might as well just find a photograph with Norman Brown. Let me see. Find a photograph with Norman Brown. Lemon, do we have a photograph with Norman Brown? Yeah, here. Oh, there we go. We have a photograph with Norman Brown and Malcolm X. A photograph with Norman Brown and Malcolm X. These guys want to be so stupid, so silly. I don't know, political neophytes? Not even that you'd want to call them. But Norman, hanging man, I like your photograph with you. Well, I'm sure that Malcolm X died even before Norman Brown was born. But we've got to get some kicks with these so-called these political jokers. We've just got to get some kicks with them. Anyways, Norman, you just hang in there with your photograph with Malcolm X that you took almost 30 years ago. And individuals are attempting to justify. Oh, look. Anyways, guys, good evening. What else is happening in your neck of the woods? My name is Mark Benchap again. I ran into this particular article. A billionaire donor gave $535,000 to Herschel Walker for his Senate campaign. And guess what? He took the money for his personal company, according to this report. Personal company. Took it. Personal. Hey, when I saw this article, I had to smile. I had to smile because I'm like, It reminds me of someone in Guyana. I know quite a few of them, but a particular one in Guyana, they went around to wherever and whoever, and they say they want money on behalf of the party, and then they pocket it, and then they gamble it out, and all manner of things. So that is why this article caught my attention. Again, we're just warming up. Veteran trade unionist Lincoln Lewis is already in studio with us. We're just warming up a little. But here's what also caught my attention, mind you. No, not the. We're not inviting snakes in as yet. Some of them are peeping. But here's what caught my attention, and these people just don't get it right. I don't know when they're going to get it right or not. But I'm not seeing our operator doesn't have that photograph up at the moment. But let's deal with this here now, and it's something that I'm going to ask Lincoln Lewis and attorney at law Shellen Washington when they get on. Here's what we're seeing here. Here is what we're seeing here. Guyana delegation visits gas to energy facility in Houston. Gas to energy facility in Houston. That is Texas, not on the East Bank. Not on the East Bank. It's actually Texas. And look, these are the Guyana representatives, right? You see no other persons of African descent, none whatsoever. And so when you talk about these things here, some of them get vexed. The trench crop will get vexed. The modern day house slaves, now that they are upset with that terminology. I haven't used that here for a while, but I will say they get upset now because we are exposing the truth, and because they want a spot at the table. They want to go so that they can continue eating crumbs and the king's meat. They're talking about, oh, can we just all get along? Silly. Oh, dotishness from those individuals. Look, take a look. How can we get along? How can we get better when you have an oppressive regime? You have a regime that is racist. You have a regime that goes around persecuting your people. And then you want to ignore all of that and then say, oh, can we just all get along? Good evening, guys. I'm glad you guys didn't see my facial expression when I did say that. Speaking of getting along, oops, there goes our operator again. Lemon is in action. Lemon is in action. Gone right back to square one, eating out of black plastic bag, eating out of a black plastic bag, but it is what it is. Hey, guess what? I can't keep someone who has made tremendous sacrifices for a better Guyana. I just cannot, and Lemon, we cannot have the veteran trade unionist waiting so long in the backstage, so let's get him on right away and invite him. Lincoln Lewis, good evening to you, sir. How are you?
Good evening, Mark. Good evening, Jules. Good evening, brothers and sisters.
Good evening.
I am doing fairly well today.
Yep.
I've been having a good
glad that you're doing fairly well today. What's the situation? What's the mood like in Guyana as of now? And your day as you went around hearing the plight, hearing the cries of the people wanting betterment. Give us some examples, please. What's happening in the country?
You know, today you're getting what I call not mixed response, but you're getting mixed comments about issues that are that do exist. The challenges that people face. You're hearing varying issues that are being raised, and not merely just saying that thing bad. People are telling you about housing. People are telling you about education. In fact, some young ladies talked to me today about the issue of the when they were going to school. They're making comparisons to what is taking place today, and the difficulties, the challenges the current children are facing in comparison to the time when they attended school. And there are some people who talked to me at lunch today about housing, the housing department. You know, that's a difficult one. These are some people who work in housing who I met at lunch today, who said to me that the instructions are at housing is that the African people must not be given commercial lands. While it is so, the instructions are that you need to review the rate that you are giving Africans house lots. Well, in fact, what they're saying there is that look, commercial lands must not be, African people must not be considered for commercial lands. And in considering African people for house lots, they need to cut back at the rate that they are distributed. So it tells you that the government, while it speaks one thing, it does something else. Let me
What it
tell
speaks.
you.
Go ahead, sir. Sorry.
Let me tell you what. And this, it worries me because there are a number of persons who, as you talk with them, they tell you, oh, the government giving us some contract here, or we give you a contract there, or so on. I want to say to them, the contracts are those little contracts that are given to them, or when they go in a community and give a tractor to the community, or build a bridge in the community. They're not doing it because they really care. They are doing it because the pressure is on them. You know, it's because people like yourself and others, myself, who have been talking out against the level of victimization in society. That's the reason. They're not doing it because they love them. And I want people to understand that. It's a different situation. They are giving it because a number of persons speaking out about what they're doing. You know, I strongly believe that we need to say to the communities that are discriminated against, we need to say to them very clear that when all these people will be allowed or allow themselves to be given a red shirt and a $5,000 or $10,000 and a box of food to go to a rally in support of the people, we need to let them understand that what we call it the rule as it relates to acquisition of land for agriculture and so forth is you can get something like about approximately 15 acres of land without coming up with a project document. What they should be telling these guys, give me at least 10 acres of land if you want me to vote for you. Don't tell me, but
they're not going to be doing that, you know, Mr. Lewis. They're just not going to be doing that. Let us welcome Shellen Washington, attorney at law, and let us also welcome all of our viewers who are now coming into the on the platform. Good evening to all of you, Rhonda Lane, and all the folks at Den Amstel, Paulette Haynes, everyone. You know, I can't call all of your names, right? Barbara Vaughn, Danny Ram. Barbara Vaughn, Danny Ram. She doesn't miss our show for nothing. Today happens to be her birth anniversary. Happy birthday to you, Barbara. And whoever else is celebrating their birth anniversary that is watching right now, if you are watching right now, happy birthday to you. Miss Washington, good evening. How are you doing? I might as well just call you my co-host.
Good evening, Mark. I am doing well tonight. How's yourself?
Good, thank you. Can't complain.
Yeah. And good night to you, Mr. Lewis.
Thank you. And you have a great night too.
Yeah.
In as much as you're spending part of it with us.
Always a coincidence that I have the two of you on together. It wasn't planned, but it just happened. So earlier, just a couple of minutes ago, Mr. Lewis said that there seems to be a policy at the Ministry of Housing to prohibit Black folks, African Guyanese, from owning lands in order to go out there and cultivate in a large scale or to build commercial lands and so forth. Thank you, Lincoln. That's pretty bad for a nation that Irfan Ali and all these other goons in the PPP want to coin this term, one Guyana. where persons of African descent are excluded from that one Guyana. What's your take on what Lincoln just said about the land situation?
My take is it's a pretty desperate situation where it comes to Afro-Guyanese. Afro-Guyanese has always been excluded under the PPP, that is, from having a seat at the table. And farming is one of the ways to gain wealth in any particular household. If you have a farm, you can grow your own food, and it's a way to gain financial independence. And we know a lot of Indo-Guyanese have they have different types of farm. They farm their crops, they bring it to the market, they sell it. And I think if Afro-Guyanese are attempting to obtain lands for commercial purposes, they should be treated the same way, and there should be some balance in terms of how the land is distributed in Guyana. It shouldn't be that one set of people gets it all. As we know, the people, and this is not about one particular group, or it's about Guyanese, and the government has been, or it's about Guyanese. Somebody's phone I was hearing. I think the government has been overlooking Afro-Guyanese for a very, very long time. And they're taking it for granted that they're giving out everything to one race to the exclusion of the other. And it's not fair. And if you want to sit there and speak about the one Guyana, you have to act like it's one by treating people equally the same. You don't say, okay, this particular group is going to get all the lands for commercial purposes. They're going to own all the farm. They're going to grow all of the crops for all the Guyanese, and then you exclude one group of people. It's not fair. That's one of the ways to get Guyanese out of poverty, by issuing more commercial land, or more lands for commercial purposes, to in particular the Afro-Guyanese, equalize the wealth in the country. We already have the situation where the money from the oil is not being distributed with equality. So if they're doing that, at least, issue the lands fairly, develop some sort of policy, and allot a certain amount to certain people, and ensure that the Afro-Guyanese are also allotted equal amount as the Indians.
Absolutely, every Guyanese, and I think that that's exactly what the coalition government did. They were ensuring that opportunities were given to all Guyanese, and kudos to Trevor Benn when he was head of the lands and surveys there. He did that. He reformed that entire institution and made it into what it has never been. Kudos to Trevor Benn. But unfortunately, the installed PPP regime went after Trevor Benn and others who are trying to equalize the playing field, make it level for all Guyanese to have access to a piece of land and so forth. Well, of course, we know individuals who covetously went after, they got a portion of land, and instead for them to do it and develop it and so forth, they were probably in the business, obviously, of flipping the land and flipping it back into the hands of the oppressors. Mr. Lewis, what is your take on what the coalition's approach was with regards to allocation of lands? And now we're seeing a different approach by this installed regime to basically exclude persons of African descent from ownership of lands. And of course, we're seeing other stuff, depriving them of contracts and all these different things.
Let me tell you that, remind you, Mark, that I have accused the PPP government of carrying out what we call economic genocide in the African community. And I still believe that they are on the same path, doing the same thing. They were out of power for five years, and in that if you hadn't that break, then the other communities outside of the ones that they will want to survive would have been totally destroyed. They have come back with a vengeance where they believe now that all lands that were given or were distributed to persons of African descent during the coalition, that they must reclaim those lands. And that's the reason why Calvin Eat London and Trevor Ben were incarcerated for some time. And it tells you the men and women we are dealing with. They feel that nobody entitled to anything unless they say you must have it. They believe that the country is their personal property. This issue about land, they are not prepared to give to African people lands. Even the lands that that they may have acquired from their ancestors, they want to take away. In fact, unto today, there were people on the west coast of Demerara who were on to us, expressing their concern of the cooperative lands and so forth that this government has been taking away. We have to do something about it. I hope that the African community come to life and understand the gravity of this situation. And don't go around and take a $10 or $10,000. Sell your pride. Sell your brother. Sell your sister for that. Sell your generation to come. We have to stand up. We have to be another approach to this issue. People have to take strong positions. These guys don't care. They don't care. They don't care. And all that, as you said earlier, there are people who tell you, why can we not live together? Well, you know why we can't live together? Because you have a program that is designed to deny the African community anything that is just unfair or anything that they deserve. So we can't live together. That's the reason. That's the answer to them. Don't ask me why we can't live together.
You know, that is
I'm not going to live. I am not going to live on my knees. When my forebears stood on their feet and fight, why should I go back to live on my knees? Why should I accept programs and actions that militate against my own interests, that subjugates me? Why should I do it? These are questions that the people are telling you, asking you why we can't live together, or telling us that we must live together. Well, yes, we can live in it. Living together don't mean that we live in the same community. Living together means that my rights, my freedoms, my choices are respected by a government equally as they respect other persons. We have to understand that. We got to come out for this thing, right? You have to fight back, boy.
You know, and
as I said earlier, the decision to give instructions to the Central Housing and Planning, right? That what you call commercial lands must not be distributed to African community. It's racist, wicked, and must be challenged.
We'll stick a pin.
When people apply for commercial land, we must apply for it and let them say that they will not get it. That's it.
We'll stick a pin at that, Lincoln Lewis, so much, and it sounds so nice coming from you. I'm sure that thousands of people would prefer to listen to what you have just said. This is not a masquerade where you get up one day and just not you in general, but masqueraders just think that it sounds nice. Oh, can't we just all get along? And the system is very oppressive. You've got to be careful with those individuals. They are opportunists. Let me just, before we move on, let me just say that someone, for some inexplicable reason, misunderstood when I say today happens to be Barbara Danny Ram. She is listening to us. It's her birth anniversary. Happy birthday to Barbara Danny Ram, Miss Barbara Danny Ram, and whomever else is celebrating their birth anniversary. I don't know, for some reason or the other, someone thought I said today happens to be your birthday, Shellen, but it's not your birthday.
I mean, thank you guys, but that would be a very early birthday. But it's not my birthday. See, my birthday is all the way in December.
I don't know where they got that from, but it's not her birthday. It's Barbara Danny Ram's birthday. But let's move on, guys. Anything to pick up from what Mr. Lewis just said there, Miss Washington?
You know, I wanted to touch a little bit on that comment where some folks are saying, "Oh, can we all get along? Can we all get along?" You know, it kind of reminds me of when we as Afro American, when we speak to other races and we tell them about the struggles as it relates to racism, because they can't relate to it, they often tend to say, well, it doesn't exist. And they just see one color. We're all one. But the fact is, Afro-Guyanese in particular, has always been in a struggle under the PPP. It's not just a regular struggle. It's a deliberate, intentional plot to oppress a particular group of people, Afro-Guyanese. It's deliberate. And until I can see the day when the PPP will implement policies that will be all inclusive, even to those Afro-Guyanese who are not PPP, who does not support them, until that day comes, I will continue to perpetuate a message that Afro-Guyanese are being discriminated against. You look at the facts. If the PPP can bring statistics, facts, show me otherwise. Show me where there's actual records which show each year that you allot lots of land to individuals. Show me the record that shows the amount that is given out to Afro-Guyanese matches the percentage of Afro-Guyanese in Guyana. Show me the amount of land you allot to Indo-Guyanese every year matches the percentage of Indo-Guyanese that you have. It would not. What we would actually see is a larger percentage is issued every year to Indo-Guyanese, and that percentage surpasses the number of Indo-Guyanese in Guyana. Whereas the amount that is allotted to Afro-Guyanese is a very minor percentage. And oftentimes to get that, you have to be in cahoots with somebody in the ministry. You have to either know somebody, or you're a PPP, or you have some sort of connection in order to get that easy access to that land. So if they can bring facts, statistics, records, and put it to the public, let the public see that, listen, we're not speaking facts, then I'm going to say, well, okay, I'm wrong. But as far as I know, PPP will not be able to bring factual record that is not fraudulent and demonstrate to the public that they're treating Afro-Guyanese fairly when it comes to allotting land. And Guyana is a pretty large country, because there are certain states in the U.S. that Guyana is way larger than. It's just that the population in certain states in the United States is, it's larger. But Guyana has a lot of land. So I'm not understanding what is it that is causing the PPP to want to treat Afro-Guyanese this way. You refusing to allot the correct numbers of lot or land to them. And then when they do have it, you're fighting them to take it. Like we've seen the actions of Anil Nandalal sitting there as the Attorney General and getting involved in a private matter that involves Mr. Lewis in a vicious, and I say vicious intentionally, a vicious attempt to take what his ancestors has left for him. And look at him, public official goes on TV and falsely claim that Mr. Lewis is not entitled to that land. Made certain false certain false accusations that are not supported in law or facts regarding the land, and falsely claiming that there's only limited circumstances under which someone could own a land. He never mentioned succession. I don't know, maybe he skipped the succession class when he was in law school, but I don't know which law school he went to.
And I don't know which law school quite a few of them have gone to, especially when they talk about, they just pop out of a hole and talking about, can we just ignore the bruises? Can we just ignore the wounds? Can we just ignore the political persecution? Can we just ignore the oppression and all manner of discriminations? And let us just hug up and just get along. Can we just all? And we find that coming from individuals who themselves are being prosecuted, not necessarily persecuted, flipping lands and so forth and selling it back. And that is why Lincoln Lewis mentioned earlier two good brothers. Trevor Benn has been wrongly persecuted, and Mr. The other name, Calvin Heath London. Two good brothers. They're not into the flipping business. But let's get to another question that I have, and I'll go back to Mr. Lewis, because Mr. Lewis, I want you to talk about this, and briefly, mind you, about the 15-point plan. That's very good for Guyana, but this racist, oppressive regime is not going to embrace it. But before we get to that, please, can you touch on the fact that out in Houston, Texas, we see here Guyana delegation. Guyana delegation visits gas to energy facility in Houston, Texas. And we see what the Guyana delegation looks like. What is so wrong about this, Lincoln?
What is, let me say to you about this, the government start off from the position that Guyana belongs to a group of people, and they will work with that group to make sure that that group succeeds. They do not look upon, they don't believe in the things them that they say, like about equality, about justice, about fair play. They don't believe in it in the universal sense. They believe that when they will select some people, they will treat them special, and then they will see that that is what is just and fair in society. They make their own rules, and they live by that. The delegation that is there, it's maybe it's the second generation of the friends and family who will get the hug of the oil contracts, and 12 was the African community. If you want to get in, you will have to get in on their terms. If you want to get in there, if you want to be it what you want to do, they will tell you that some of their people have to be a part of the company that you may establish. They want to be, you'll have to be, their people will have to, they'll identify the people who will have to be a part of your company before you get anything. So, Mark, there's nothing new about this guy. I've said it a number of times that the PPP can be read in the way like you're playing cricket with a football. The ball is big in front of you, and more so, they don't be ashamed of what they do. That's that when we believe that weakness is a strength of these guys. They don't care if an all Indian, even if the cricket team in this country is all Indian, and you have proficient African people, they don't care. You see, when they go to Linden and they set up a cricket pitch, a lot of people believe that it's Lindeners going to play there. It's not Lindeners going to play there. They will carry their team there, and the Lindeners will have to come and watch, be spectators. That is what they're going to be doing. And they will cut us out of school, out of football and other things. That is how they operate.
Absolutely. That's how they operate. Miss Washington, let's get your take on the visiting team to Houston, Texas, and we see it's comprised of just one ethnic group. And now they got some of the house slaves, in my term, that is, who are looking for little crumbs and hustling and looking for a little place under the sun to shine to continue with their questionable lifestyle. But let me say that this here is wrong for Guyana. This is not a true depiction or representation of a real Guyana, which is one people, one nation, one destiny. Ms. Washington, what is your take about this image here about Guyana and giving these folks an opportunity to have this tour and possibly investments and so forth?
Right. If Guyanese, both Indian and Afro-Guyanese cannot look at this picture and right off the bat determine that Guyana is not an all-inclusive society and that there's by and large an exclusion of other groups from us from having a seat at the table. If it's not obvious to every single Guyanese, then I think we have a real big problem. The thing is, I don't know what the most recent census in Guyana says as it regards to the composition of the different racial groups. But as far as I know, when I was in Guyana, there was a very narrow margin in terms of the two largest or major racial groups in Guyana, which is Afro-Guyanese and Indo-Guyanese, and they were very close in numbers. So if we want to see a proper representation, at least this group should have had Afro-Guyanese. And I think it's obvious to everyone that the government is not all inclusive. It is by and large an exclusion of African Guyanese. And there's no secret, there's no secrecy to that. And it doesn't matter how much people jump around and make foolish comments in the eyes or in the clear face of prejudice and discrimination, it still is obvious to everyone that Afro-Guyanese are not permitted a seat at the table. They're excluded from everything. They're excluded from the economy, making financial decisions for their own country. Even though Afro-Guyanese were there from the foundation, they were there for a very long time. They were taken there by force also. They had to fight for their freedom, fight for lands. And you would have imagined, because a group of people gone through all that, that they would be allowed the opportunity to lead in their own governance. They would be provided with the opportunity to be a part of something that is so historical, something that is so major. And it's the possibility of financial wealth here. Because oil, as we know, if you're investing in oil, there's a possibility of a lot of money coming your path. So everybody knows what oil brings. So to exclude any Afro-Guyanese from this group of people, the delegates, I think is blatantly wrong. And we should not just sit idly and encourage the PPP to continue to act in this manner. Because in most other countries, they try to reflect the population. Even here where we live, they try to reflect the population in leadership, in governance, in everything. So I'm not understanding why such a large racial group in Guyana is blatantly excluded from the delegate. It is wrong.
Downright wrong indeed. Sean Anthony Ben, and good point there made. Attorney at law, Shellen Washington, if you're now joining us, good evening and welcome. We have Lincoln Lewis with us, we have Shellen Washington with us, and we have thousands of you across the globe watching us. Sean Anthony Ben, good evening, sir. Making a good point here. Sean is saying they commenced the census a year ago now, but no report. Now, they know, Ms. Washington and Mr. Lewis, they know exactly what that report is, that our East Indian brothers and sisters are no longer the majority in Guyana, but they do not want to let that evidence out of the bag, so to speak. Thank you so much, Sean, Ben, and good evening. Let me just, before we move on, I want to touch on the 15-point plan from Lincoln Lewis. But let me show you guys something, another cause for concern. This individual, John Prasad, male East Indian, age 29 years, a farmer of Hillfoot, Susdike, Linden Highway. Look at it carefully. I circled it. John Prasad, male East Indian. Then let's take a look at this here. Kevin Grant called Musty. Oh gosh, these names, Musty. Male Negro. Look at it again. Male East Indian, male Negro. Mr. Lewis, when are they going to get it right at the police department? Male Negro?
They're afraid to say African. Yeah, it's difficult for them to ever get it right. There was a time, when I used to give a pass to the police force. You can't give a pass any longer, because the longer we say that they are carrying out political instructions, the more many more of us are going to be discriminated against. They cannot be using the law they will use the law, in fact, to discriminate against us. They will use the law to demonize us. They will use the law to segregate us. And that's what is being done here now. Segregation. They call him a Negro. That's all. And they don't see anything wrong with some see it wrong. Some believe that that's the way they should describe people. And they are doing the master's bidding. And we have to come to terms with it, Mark, that this police force is in cahoots with the government, with the PPP, to do these things to us. We have to come to terms and understand that and let them know that we know what they do.
We ought to let them know indeed. And of course, I'm sure that you, as General Secretary of the Guyana Trades Union Congress, would probably seek an engagement with the Guyana Police Force to once and for all just get rid of this description, Negro. Ms. Washington, your take on this particular subject.
What I think happened there is certain derogatory terms and the way they refer to people in Guyana came from a long, dark history, very, very dark history of colonial leadership in Guyana. And I think since from the time we've gained independence to now, I think we haven't had much done to train the police force on policies. And, a lot of things has happened in the world, especially here in the United States, where certain things has become offensive. You can refer to people a certain way. And then there's the whole issue with the gender situation. And I think Guyana has left behind on the boat. And that's mainly because of who is in leadership. Because to have a country that is sensitive to things like this, and to understand that you can refer to people with this type of name anymore, and it has to be Afro-Guyanese or Black or a proper name, not derogatory. It takes proper leadership to correct policies. And if you don't have good leadership, I don't expect to see good policies. So the police force, I don't think there's any way that they usually have like regular training where they're trained to, change the laws, change the policies, change things that happens, the way you arrest, what, how, and when a person should be arrested, what name should be written on the mugshot when they're taking the mugshot. Or I don't think these are things Guyanese personally take seriously. So you would have a situation that would be going on for years. I've seen a lot of wrong things, and I see public figures, I've seen politicians look at it and say, oh, there's nothing wrong with it. But the problem is Guyanese have been so used to wrongdoing. They're so comfortable with wrongdoing. So when they see something that is blatantly wrong, they can't even call it out. I remember Mark showed the cartoon the other day with the female, and they're representing oil-rich Guyana, and they're making certain reference. I mean, that's blatantly sexist. But because we're so used to wrongdoing, they're so used to calling a Black Afro-Guyanese male a male Negro, so that now it's embedded in them. So whether it be our own people calling us these names or our Indo-Guyanese calling us these names, people just know it's just normalized. And Guyanese has learned to accept as normal things which are blatantly wrong. And I think that is one of the purpose of this show, to help people to understand if something is wrong, you don't sit in it and blindly accept it. And for so long and too many years, Guyanese has been sitting and accepting the blind, ignorant leadership of the PPP, and they have not been doing enough to recognize that it's your country and you need to do something with your vote. You need to ensure that your vote is properly counted so you can take back your country, so the policies can be fixed under the correct leadership. If we should have the correct leadership, proper policies will flow down even to the police force.
Absolutely. Can't disagree with you on that at all. Cannot disagree with you. Hopefully, Roysdale Ford, attorney at law, member of parliament, senior counsel, can also take up that position with having the Guyana police force just remove that description of Negro. Speaking of Roysdale Ford, we see here, he says the U.S. detention of Permanent Secretary Thomas is a big thing. Has called for an investigation. Nothing at all thus far. Lincoln, your take on what is it that the regime has to hide? You already know what's happening, but no investigation. She's still on the job. Your take, sir.
The PPP sees nothing wrong in these type of things. You know, Mark, when it comes to governance, and the question of the conduct of public officers. So like carry the PPP bidding, they don't care. They will run the system down. I asking for an inquiry into it. It's a waste of time. They're not responsive to these type of things that can bring about good governance. You ask for it, they will curse you out. That's how they behave, right? And that's why they have to carry out instructions of other nations, you know, because people know them, how they behave. The first thing what they know about is that if somebody comes to this country to do business, they know to shake them down, shake down government. What you see is happening here, if it was a clerk and they perceive that clerk to be somebody who supports the opposition, that person would have been in front of send the person up, put them in front of the court and all these things. That's how they behave. This thing about good governance, they're ill into that. They don't understand it. They don't understand it. The issue, look, the issue is Sue and Vice News. And the other one, look at that issue. It seems as if somebody else did it. They're turning it around and they're saying it's somebody else. People want to set up people and out there. But it was somebody else in the opposition. And that person would have been totally wrong. They would have been hanging that person down. These guys do not believe in accounting for anything that they do. They see this thing as their farm, that they can do as they like. They don't care. And the faster we who are being victimized, marginalized, and denied our rights with this in society, come to terms and understand that, it will be better for us. We have to stop walking behind these people. That man don't care. All these men don't care. Imagine the response of the minister in that case. The man bought when he's saying dismiss the reporter who asked about it. Dismiss the reporter, right? But that same man will not accept it. He was in opposition. They would have gone. They would have been turning up in front the minister office and wait for the minister coming in to overturn the minister car. You have to understand that. It's a pity that is what this nation has come to.
It's a pity indeed. It's a
You know,
pity
this
indeed.
brings me to a point. This brings me to a point, Mark.
Sure.
Let me tell you something. When this government start to run to some other countries in the East and saying that, look, we want to set up strong trading arrangements and what have you with them, it brings me to the point. And they tell you how the Americans and the West, how they're repressive and what have you in some of their actions and so on. You know, one of the reasons why I still believe and I support some values from the West, I support them because those same countries that they are running are telling you that there is the new friends and what have you. They in their own country don't respect rights, rule of law, freedoms, right? They don't respect minority groups. If you are a Muslim, they want to destroy you. If you are whatever you are and you're minority, you must not have a say. If I support them in what they're doing and running to the East and building that relationship, and this is what we should realize, the African people should realize in this country, that the only place that we can turn back and stand up and say, look here, our rights are being transgressed is in the West. In that where they are taking us, they don't have the mechanism and the facility to respect people's rights. Let me give you an example. In the United States, a cop may meet you on the road. He may shake you down. He may frame you, right? But the mechanism is of such that you can fight it in the courts. You can be exonerated. And even the man who violate the law and transgress already cop, when it's found out, he can be put before the court and at the end of time. In those countries that they are going to, the system is not like that. You are another statistics. They kill you and they throw you one side. I believe that we have to start rethinking a number of these relationships and do it differently. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Lincoln Lewis there for you guys. 59 minutes after 9 o'clock. Attorney Shellen Washington is with us this evening. Royceville Ford has made a comment about the permanent secretary should go off and leave. There should be an investigation. Briefly, nothing at all. Embarrassment to the regime that a permanent secretary has had her phone confiscated and her visa, U.S. visa, revoked. Your take, please, Ms. Washington.
The biggest problem is the Guyana government, if she is indeed, or if it was the situation where she was innocent, the Guyana government should have gone to her aid and they should have demanded answers from the U.S. authority, because this is one of their own public officials that was detained and her phone was seized by the U.S. government. And the Guyanese government has sat quietly and not utter a word. And if they believe that this is not a big deal, then I know for sure we have a huge problem in Guyana, because this is a big deal that you send your permanent secretary of Home Affairs to a country. She's in transit in the United States and she has suffered something of this sort, and you sit idly without doing anything. It needs to be investigated. I've said it before that usually if your visa is revoked, it has to be that the U.S. government has information that you've either violated their laws or you've done something that warranted them revoking your visa, because it's not everybody's visa is revoked on a regular basis. I've seen the most situations I've seen where a visa was revoked is when people come to this country, come to the United States, and they violate the laws in some way. And that's why your visa usually gets revoked. It doesn't just necessarily get revoked because you lied to the US authorities, but if you infringe the laws of this country, you won't be able to come back. They could revoke your visa. So I think it's a really big of a deal and it needs an investigation. The Guyana government shouldn't sit idly by if they claim that she's innocent, if they claim she didn't do anything, if they claim it's because she refused to answer or provide information to US authorities, then do your investigation, bring the facts, show it to the Guyanese people, let the Guyanese people know what's going on. Because it's a shame if the Guyanese people have a criminal sitting in this position in Guyana. They need to know. The Guyanese people need answers. And this is the thing. We normalize bad conduct in Guyana. That's what makes Guyana such a corrupt country. There's no accountability. If someone infringes the laws in Guyana, they need to be accountable. If someone in a public position goes to another country and infringes the law in that country, they need to be accountable for their actions. They need to be some sort of investigation. And if it becomes necessary, that person should step down from that position. But because we live in Guyana is such a corrupt society where might is right, because I have people in power, because she is associated with certain people, nothing is done to either remove her, to do an investigation into whatever happened while she was here in the United States. Absolutely nothing. That's how Guyana is. We normalize bad conduct. We normalize criminal in public office. We normalize people who engage in unlawful conduct and unlawful activities in public offices. This is wrong. It wouldn't happen in any of the developed countries that I know. Any of the metropolitan countries, this type of conduct would be properly investigated. And if it turns out that there's merit or the person did something that was wrong, they would be removed or asked to resign. And Guyana should follow suit.
Absolutely. Can't disagree with you on that one. Royce Dale Ford also is calling for that investigations. Most of our listeners are also calling for, in fact, a lot of them want her to resign. She should resign. Because whether what's on that phone has implicated lots of folks in Guyana. Some of them are on the watch list. Some of them have gotten their law licenses suspended. And all manner of things are basically on the U.S. watch list. And we see some of these people are fighting for relevance and are fighting for their so-called survival, their daily bread. We know who those people are, irrelevant at the moment. I want to touch before we go, though, on the 15-point plan by Lincoln Lewis. But before we go, here is another interesting and very important thing to reveal to our people. Government vows, that means the installed PPP regime vows to fight judges' ruling, ordering Exxon to fully compensate Guyana for oil spill. Now, listen to this guy. Please listen to this. The EPA, Environmental Protection Agency in Guyana, the judge has ruled that they must enforce liability clause in Exxon permits. So if there is an event of a spill, that Exxon will be responsible for that. But guess what, guys? The installed PPP regime has appealed this decision, said, no. Let the Guyanese taxpayers pay for that, not Exxon. Imagine the installed PPP regime is saying that. Lincoln, briefly, please, on this here, before we get to your 15 point. Your take on what this installed regime is doing, insulting Guyanese with this appeal.
You know, Mark, I'm interested. These are interesting developments. But what this does for me personally, it justifies my point that Professor Clive Thomas's proposal that each household will be given $5,000 US, which will be converted to $1 million Guyana dollars. Because if they're saying that they are going to pay money for the oil spill and these type of things, um, then we have enough money that we can pay the in this country. I believe strongly that while I am not surprised at what is being done there, um, they are not their own masters. I still believe that it enhances my claim for the $1 million be paid to the households. And I'm saying it that $1 million be paid to the household. We have an average of over 5 persons per household. I'm saying to you that if we have 5 persons per household, you will end up, and you divide that money between 5 of them, you are going to get 200,000 Guyana dollars, right? For each one of them inside here. It is far better than putting on a red shirt and go there and work and ask yourself to accept $10,000. You will have to do it, I believe, about 20 times, right? Before you can make that $200,000. They are justified our demand for the $1 million proposal. They are justifying it. These guys, they don't have interest in the citizenry of this country. What they have interest in is to hold on power. And if there are external agencies that can provide the funding and help them to hold on power, that they can keep their hands on our money and divide it among their friends and cohorts, they are comfortable with that. This here is not merely about law. This here is merely about the desperation of the PPP to remain in power. I believe that if they do that, then the Exxon and others will support them come election. They remain in office. That's all about it. The PPP don't do anything, do anything that is now well calculated. This is well calculated. This is politics to the highest plane.
All right, the selling out of Guyana by selling out of Guyanese by the PPP regime. Just imagine to have insurance to protect Guyanese in the event of a spill, to protect Guyana. The PPP has appealed the judge's decision, Justice Nel Kisoon. Good job, Justice Kisoon. But the PPP regime doesn't want that. They want Guyanese to suffer in the event, God forbids, an oil spill. Desiree Simons is saying, quote, if the PPP appeals the decision, then it implies that the Guyana government is not working in the interest of Guyanese and should be removed by the people, regardless of race and ethnicity. While we prepare to wrap up our show here this evening, your take on this here, Ms. Washington, as it pertains to the government's opposal to the judge's decision.
Well, I think the judges made the right decision because there's a enforced the liability clause in the Exxon permit, and I believe that permit was issued by the Guyanese government. So I think the he has made his decision based on that clause, which is legally enforceable. That in the event of a situation of this sort, Exxon must pay a penalty. They must compensate anybody who has suffered any type of damage or injury. I remember there's numerous times when we had back in the 90s, Oh My Gold Mine, and there's a lot of time when cyanide was spilled, and the people who suffered any type of damages were properly compensated, and this was under PNC. I think it's shocking to the conscience, and it's kind of appalling that the Guyana government, who should be protecting the interests of the subjects or the people, is now saying that they're going to appeal a legal decision based on the law. that decision is a proper decision. It's not something that Justice Sandal Kisoon just pull out of his hat and say, well, I'm going to rule in favor of the people. No, he enforced a clause that's already in the external permit. So I'm not too clear as to why the Guyana government would appeal a ruling that would benefit the people of Guyana. It just clearly shows me, or it just makes me believe, that there's some sort of conflict of interest, and the government, people in the government probably have interest or investment into this Exxon company, and they're the ones who might suffer if the Guyanese people are compensated. And if you have a conflict of interest, and you're in governance, you're governing the people, and you have an interest in Exxon, you need to resign. You need to remove yourself, because it's not about you or protecting your interests. It's about protecting the interests of the Guyanese people. The government is not there for themselves. And that is what people need to wake up and recognize, that the PPP are there for themselves. Jagger is there to fill his pocket. Everybody's there to continue to get whatever they can get for themselves and their friends and their families. And it's not about the people of Guyana, because why would it? This doesn't make any sense whatsoever that the government would run to appeal a decision that protects the interests of the people against injury, against damage, against harm. Because if there's an oil spill, as you know, oil spill is very dangerous. It's happened a couple of times here in the US, and oftentimes there's class action lawsuits. I think in a developed country, those people would be allowed to be compensated without the government interfering. But we know where we stand with Guyana, pretty much nowhere. So I think the people should take note.
The people should take note. Indeed, 13 minutes after 10 o'clock, straight up with Mark Benchop. My guests this evening are Lincoln Lewis, veteran trade unionist, a man who continues to fight for the people of Guyana, all of the people, the workers' rights, human rights, you name it. And he does that without any sort of bickering and crying and all these manner of things. And when he speaks, it's people like Lincoln Lewis we ought to be listening to. Not just Johnny come lately hustlers who want to just hop out of their bed or their cow pens and talk about, oh, can't we just all get along? Give me a break. Now, let's move to this. And I see some of your comments there. But the cyanide spill on the Omai, lots of our indigenous brothers and sisters and others along the river that was actually affected with the cyanide and so forth. The PPP regime it happened under, and they just disregarded those people at every level, every single level. They just didn't do much to ensure that those folks were compensated. Shame on the PPPC regime. And we're seeing the PPPC installed government doing the same thing now, being unpatriotic. But before we close off, very briefly, Lincoln, what is talk around Georgetown, around Guyana right now is what you discussed on Labor Day, a 15-point plan that would uplift all Guyanese so that they can have this better life. Touch on that 15-point plan briefly, please, sir.
Well, among the things that I'm talking about is to remove the NISD deficit. Now we have money. We are having the projection now at this that we are going to make something about 2.88 billion US dollars this year on from oil and gas. What we're saying, take some of that money and put it to the NIS to remove the deficit that it's carrying over some time. That can cause us to really now pay decent compensation for accident, different pension, and these type of things. You may want to know how we get this deficit. We get the deficit because a number of years when the actuarial studies were done, the government that had the final say about the actuarial studies, well, board may recommend that those recommendations be put in place. The government over the years have given alternative instructions that they have not to be put in place. So we created that deficit. It's the government political decision that caused the state of affairs. in the NIS. So all that we're asking, and politicians know, money is coming. Take some money and put into this scheme. And that people can get decent pension, decent, what we call it, compensation for accident, things like maternity benefits and all these type of things can be looked at. The NIS in itself, when it was established in 1969, has a section of it that deals with that speaks to unemployment benefits. It is our view that what you should do is to, in the present circumstance, where a number of agencies are not state agencies, they're private agencies now. The situation becomes more fluid. People moving from job to job. A man may get dismissed, or you must get retrenched, and you're looking for a job. What we're saying is that, look, activate now the section that deals with unemployment benefit. All that you need to have there is to put in the regulations. And this unemployment is when people are moving from one job to another. A man may get dismissed now, or for some reason, the agency that he's working with they may have a closure, and he has to look for a job. We say between one job to the other, he should be able to have something to sustain him. Let us activate that element of it, right? Well, as earlier I spoke about the issue of the direct cash transfer. With the direct transfer, we have started work. We are going to be moving. We are going to be talking to every stakeholder, recognized stakeholder in this country. We are going to be even to the churches. We decide to go to the churches. We're going to talk with them. The church, and we know that the church always, many of the church leaders, they will turn to tell us that we are apolitical. Yes, you're apolitical, but you ask people for tithes, right? All people can put those tithes in, right? They need to have money, and this money is due to them. So all of us, the leaders of the church, the members of the churches, all of us will have to hold hands to ask this government or demand of this government to activate it. Then the question of free education from nursery to university. 27 of the Constitution speaks to that. We need to look at that. We need to demand that our rights be respected under the Constitution. We cannot say, nobody should be saying to us that we're going to deal with your rights in 2025. My rights are to be respected now, not sometime down the road. So we need to demand that. We believe also that we are in an age where we are a technological age. We need to have the young people, a young man or a woman maybe at the age of 18. Adult told them, well, they got to go to school. We're saying we got to work a system out where we get money, a stipend to keep them going during that period. These are some of the things that we are looking for. The time is not, enough for me to articulate what went into this, but I believe that these are issues that are germane that we have to look at. The issue of health, this thing where the government running down the hospitals. The Constitution speaks about health. What the Constitution is a constitutional right. I'm saying to you, where they're running down these hospitals, the public hospitals and clinics, and helping and telling you now that you will be able to go to private hospitals and they will pay. What they're doing is an act of transferring state funds to their friends. Mm-hmm. We must look at that. And let me make it further, that when you do that, people like you, Mark Benskop, when you come to this country and Shalom Watch, now we come, if you take ill And you will have to, nothing will be at the public hospitals. You will have to go to some private hospitals, and you people standing up for rights and rule of law, you know what will happen? They will kill you inside there. They will kill you inside there. So we have to be very careful. We got to stand up and make sure that these hospitals and clinics are properly staffed. They have all the appropriate equipment, and they are run by competent administrators and medical personnel. Those belong to us, not the private hospitals there. And when you may something you may have, you may not have money to go to the private hospital because the politicians will give instruction who can go to do a surgery now and whose bill can be paid. We have to, this is serious business. And it is those type of things that we consider to be detrimental to us in society, that cause us to be demanding a number of these things to be done. We have to address them.
You know, with the 15-point plan, thank you so much, Lincoln. With the 15-point plan, it will be available for you guys to have copies of it. I've noticed that someone is asking how can they get a copy of that and so forth. Lincoln will be back to discuss that even more. Want to take this time out to thank all of you. Good night. Those of you who have just joined us, good night to Marvin Williams. Good evening to you guys. You guys had a lovely press conference here today. And so we remember the campaign money and all these manner of things that the PPP is just denying many folks. They passed through Sophia, they went into other areas and denied persons the right to have the COVID-19 pandemic grants and all these different things. But we've got to go. Before we do, though, let us ask for your closing remarks. Attorney at Law, Shellon Washington.
Right. I want to say thank you again, Mark, for having me, and thanks to all your listeners. I do want to just correct one thing that as it relates to the cyanide spill with the OMI, because I do remember that clearly, like in 1997, somewhere thereabout, I was a summer student at OMI. So I had personal knowledge of this. And I think at that time it was Sam Hines who was the
Right.
Prime Minister in Guyana. They did compensate because I was in the Human Resources Department, and I do know that they were processing a lot of compensation for people who suffered. But a lot of those people also did not submit their claims. Guyana wasn't always this bad. I think it's just this administration is really bad. So I think we weren't always in this position that we're in, but we're in a really bad position now. So once again, guys, I want to say thanks for listening in tonight. Thank you so much for all of you with your comments and even the birthday wishes, even though it's not my birthday. But I want to say thank you so much. I appreciate all of you guys. I appreciate all the support I've been getting from so many of you. I've been getting calls from people all around the globe. Thank you guys so much. Even though in some of the instances, it's not something that the office could actually do, but thank you guys for some support and the love and everything. A lot of people call and they said they have friends or family who are listening to this program, and they have given that person the number to call the office. I want to say thank you so much, guys. I appreciate you all. God bless you all, and thanks for having us. Thanks for listening. Thanks to all those who share the link so that we will continue to educate people and they will continue to know and be educated regarding the issues that are happening in Guyana and the struggle that Afro-Guyanese are facing even today, even at this very moment. I will continue to, advocate for my brothers and sisters who are in Guyana. And I hope you guys will continue to advocate by continue to share the link, telling people, telling your friends, telling your family. Thank you, guys. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Washington. This is the first time I will pick up on an issue with you. That after the cyanide spill, I recall that I was a couple of us were protesting so that people can be properly compensated, and the regime then, the PPP regime, they wanted to basically cover it up. They knew of the spill, they did nothing, they said nothing, and shame on Sam Hines for that. but you were just high school, and you were probably, you probably missed that part where they wanted to cover things up. A lot of people got damaged as a result of that, and the PPP regime didn't do what they had to do. They just made it appear that they were just giving some people a couple of little handouts here and there, but the bulk of the people, their lives were destroyed, their livelihoods were destroyed as a result of that.
You see, Mark, I would not know of all the details. I was just privy to the little claims that we were processing.
The little claims, yes.
Yeah, in the Human Resource Department.
Yeah.
That's where I was with Norman McLean and Sitaram.
Yeah, well, don't, please.
I don't know.
Those are the guys. Those are the guys that actually, in my opinion, destroyed Guyana. But thank you, though, for your closing remarks. And I want to say that you are getting all the calls and people calling you and having you wanting to take the cases and so forth because you respect your clients and you're a good lawyer. You still have your license, and you will have your license for a very long time. Mr. Lincoln Lewis, your closing remarks, please, sir.
I just want to thank you for having me. Ms. Washington, you're making a very good contribution here. To the viewers, I want to say thanks for your words of encouragement from time to time. Even at the time when I believe I am down, there are some comments that really help me to energize and get up and fight back. I wanted to say thanks to all of you, and for some of you who are right now online, let me say to you that this 15 point will not be one that will remain on a desk or in an office. We are going into the streets in every nook and cranny. We will be bringing it to you. We expect you to listen to us, give us an audience, same way as how you sit and you give audience to the other ones who take oppressive action against you. This is about your rights. This is about you're getting a share of the pie, and we intend that we're going to walk with you. We're going to bring it to you. We're going to walk with you. We're going to fight with you until the end. This year, let me tell you this. The president, I see something, DPI, president going to Prince Charles's coronation. Every time the president flies, all expenses are paid for the president, okay? But while all expenses are paid, the president gets $5,000 out of pocket. He can do anything with that. That is his money. But his hotels are paid, his travels are paid, his meals are paid for, his laundry and everything is paid for, but he still get $5,000. If the president can get $5,000 and he's getting how much million a month, why is it that we can't give from the 2.88 billion US? We want you to give 5,000 to a family per year. Per year. We ask you for 5,000 for 20 times a year, one time a year. Okay? I want you to sit down, think about what is happening, and let us all demand what is justly ours. Good night, brothers and sisters. Good night. May you have a wonderful weekend. I will be there next week with you. Once again, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Can we just all share the pie together? Thank you so much, Mr. Lewis. Thank you so much, Ms. Washington. And thank you. Have a good night, guys.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. And great job, Lincoln Lewis there, a veteran trade unionist, a man that we should be listening to, a man who makes sense, just like Ms. Washington as well. And I tell you what, I just appreciate the fact that you guys have taken time out. We don't want to be distracted at all. We shouldn't be distracted at all. We shouldn't allow individuals who do not have a sense of history and understand politics to distract us and to tell us about their interpretation or misinterpretation of what unity and can we all just get along when the country has an installed regime that is as oppressive as the PPP regime. Now is not the time for that. Now is the time for fighting for equality and justice for all the Guyanese. And then once there is sign that that is the case, then we can all sit down and we can all get along. But in the face of persecution, people are being arrested left, right, and center. People are being discriminated against as a result of their ethnicity. And some people are being locked up, and they see their way out of being locked up, out of being prosecuted. They feel that they got to sing for the oppressors. And they feel that the more they sing for the oppressors will love them. It doesn't go that way at all. You guys continue to stay focused, continue to be strong, and don't listen to the voices of those who are desperate right now, desperate in every sense of the word, and are trying to, in whatever little way, because they cannot be successful of that, but they feel that they're yah-yahing and they're pia-piaing, they can brainwash some of the people. Be careful of those individuals. They're dangerous to you, they're dangerous to your community, and they're dangerous to the country as a whole. Some of them are in the corners right now making this sound.
I want you. You get mad?
Mad. Shut. Yeah.
Again, they're making this song right now.
Sir, I want you. You get mad?
Mad.
All right, that's enough for that. My name is Mark Benchap. I'll be back tomorrow. Same place, same time. God bless you. God bless our beautiful country. You guys have a great night. And remember, let us keep hope alive. Let us keep hope alive. Better days are ahead. Do not be fooled. Do not be brainwashed. We love you guys. God bless you all. You heard the song. You heard the crying. Go out there and support a real lawyer, Shalon Washington. She has her law license still intact, and she respects her clients. God bless you.
So, this is attorney Shalon Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm, located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
Basement level vibes with another one, straight up blackness. Aye, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, I do it for the love, him not do it for no money. Straight up, him attack, educating everybody. Big up my friends and big up my family. Turn on the radio, catch the vibes, it's integrity. Straight up, Benskop stands for unity. One people, one nation, one destiny. Free up the truth in the air, even the blind can see. The deaf can hear, the dumb can talk, the cripple can walk. Boom, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Margaret, we have to gather round, grab a seat and sit down, pay attention. Education, liberation, we have to stand strong. Ben's cap upon the radio like
right across Guyana when the ministers of Granger or Nagamutu come here.
Source.
Okay, well,
Maybe the Chinese company that did not get the agreement that they wanted here, maybe they're the ones who told you, or it could be just a fictitious thing.
Okay, well, let's talk about specific individuals. What is your relationship with Mr. Su Jerome?
Are you confident that you're going to deliver credible and fair elections?
Of course. Only one way I know, and that is the correct way. I do not believe in, there's so much negative things in the newspapers. I will not sell my integrity for...
Are you confident that you're going to deliver credible and fair elections?
Of course.
Yeah, this is the elite team. The root team. Strong team.
Number one.
PPP team. Yeah. Yeah, Sam. PPP all the way.
Fort.
Yeah, one Guyana.
Yes. All in the fort.